We're going to take the grade 1 action from Saratoga in reverse chronological order. So let's take a look at race number 10. This is the field for the grade 1 Sword Dancer at 1.5 miles. And, this was an interesting race to take a look at and to consider because you had a number of horses exiting the Bowling Green, the local prep for the Sword Dancer, but that came over an absolute bog, and it really felt like there were only a handful of horses that handled the surface as opposed to others that absolutely despised it. Then you had some fresh faces that were coming in that were a little bit intriguing, but you really needed to kind of make a decision what you thought of that Bowling Green as a whole. Shockingly enough, the two horses that dead heated for the win in the Bowling Green, they run 1-2 here in the Sword Dancer. Here is the stretch run of this year's Sword Dancer.
Glorious Empire still there in the Sword Dancer. Set down for another furlong, trying to keep this lead. Channel Maker is 2 lengths behind in second. The others need to get going now. Spring Quality is third, and Glorious Empire still got run. Glorious Empire's gonna do it all the way under Julian Leparoux taking the Sword Dancer.
Glorious Empire, now a grade 1 winner. He gets the job done in the Sword Dancer over Channel Maker, the horse he dead heated with in the Bowling Green, and they are followed in third place by Spring Quality for Grand Motion at odds of 5-1. Let's take a look at Glorious Empire a little bit further, shall we? 9 for 23 lifetime, over $850,000 in career earnings, owned by Matthew Shera. Trained by Chuck Lawrence, bred by Patrick Grogan in Ireland, ridden to victory, brilliantly handled on the front end by Julian Leparoux. You see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He's by Holy Roman Emperor at a pivotal mare named Humble and Proud. 106 Beyer speed, figure 127 time form U.S. rating for Glorious Empire, winning this year's Sword Dancer. Channel Maker gets a 103 and a 124. Spring Quality a 100 and a 123. Everyone else is sub 100 on the Beyer scale. And then you've got a couple of 120s sprinkled in there from a time form standpoint. I'm going to be totally frank and upfront about this. I don't know how to handle the turf division anymore. It feels like it is just such a mishmash right now, where perhaps Glorious Empire is now the king, but maybe I just need to wrap my head around the idea that a horse that you could have had for $65,000 last summer is now the best turf sort of long distance horse that we have in the United States. Maybe it's bad for me to be a little bit cynical of that and be a little bit skeptical. And who knows, maybe it'll cost me again, because these were two of the horses that I just tossed entirely. I said, I think they handled that boggy turf course in the Bowling Green better than anyone else. Maybe they're just coming into their own, and totally possible with Channel Maker. He's a 4-year-old, and he's always hinted at some ability, but I feel like I know Channel Maker. He's that kind of horse that, more often than not, there's going to be one horse that he can't get by. Now, the nice thing about this effort from Glorious Empire was he went fast early to establish the lead. Leparoux threw down a 23 opening quarter. And the 1.25 mile fraction time form US has color-coded blue, meaning it was slow and possibly helping those two horses that were forwardly placed. But I like that he threw down that 23 quarter for the opening, and the final quarter, he came home in 22.55. He ran every step of the way. So, maybe I do just need to admit that this is a horse that has turned a corner, and he's really turned into something. The 106 Beyer, that makes him a threat in any race. And that early speed that he's got. I guess I'm afraid, I'm having a hard time fully buying in. And who knows, maybe it'll bite me again. It sounds like, according to Chuck Lawrence, definitely going to consider the Joe Hirsch and then go to the Breeders' Cup. The races are all spaced a month apart, and he's doing very well on that schedule. And look, whatever they're doing, I would say keep going, because he right now he's in raging form. I also think there's a little piece of him really appreciating Saratoga, but at the end of the day, this was a big effort. Channel Maker, as I made mention, I think he's always going to be one of those horses that, I guess it depends on the price. 7-1, too late for me to be enticed, but I always feel like there's at least one that maybe, he can't quite get by. Spring Quality, considering he had his little issue trying to get to the Arlington Million and coming back here running as well as he did, thought this was encouraging. No reason to think that he can't take a step forward. I believe Grand Motion tweeted that they will be looking at the Joe Hirsch as his sort of prep to go into the Breeders' Cup. High Happy, I had speculated prior in the preview edition that perhaps he was going off form. He ran okay here and just okay. And I hate to say it, I think that's what you can say for the rest of this field. Everybody just ran okay. So if you're questioning the top two, who have been boss at Saratoga, Glorious Empire and Channel Maker. And let's say you don't love Robert Bruce, the winner of the Arlington Million. I happen to love Robert Bruce. I think he's the best turf horse that we have. Outside of them, what do we got here? What are we doing? The turf division here in the United States right now is just a mess. And I normally don't consider these sort of moves, but I think you got to think long and hard, especially if you're in the same camp as I am. Now, maybe you love these horses, and that's you as a handicapper, you need to be the one to make that decision. As a handicapper, I'm looking at this, and I'm all of a sudden thinking something that I never thought I would think. I looked at that run from Fashion Business in the Del Mar Handicap a couple weeks back. I look at that and go, why couldn't he threaten to win a race like this? And if they're all going to converge on Churchill Downs for the first weekend in November, if it's not a European, why can't it be a horse like Fashion Business, where the distance isn't a problem for him? He's got a little bit of versatility. And if I am not shaking in my boots from any of these East Coast horses, again, I understand the East Coast turf. We always talk about it. It just seems like it's better than the West Coast turf, and the West Coast dirt is better than the East Coast dirt. Perhaps this is the year where things are a little bit different. I do think the Europeans have got to be looking at this saying, come on, November. Let's keep our horses together because we've got a prize that is ripe for the picking. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm disparaging the winner too much because, again, he ran a giant race. Glorious Empire is in tremendous form right now. I just want to know, can he continue this? So if they do choose to go to the Hearst, that'll probably be the moment for me where it's either you're buying or you're selling. Because if he runs like this in that race, then I have to look at him and say, yeah, he's a legitimate threat to sort of wire a field in the Breeders' Cup turf. If he turns back into a little bit of a slightly lesser version of Glorious Empire, then all of a sudden my concerns might be validated. But for right now, look, you can't say otherwise. Glorious Empire's on a 2-race win streak. He's won the 2 big races at long distances up at Saratoga. He's a Grade 1 winner. Glorious Empire gets the job done in the Grade 1 Sword Dancer with big speed figures. A 106 Beyer and a 127 time form U.S. rating. Sounds like the Joe Hirsch, followed by a date down at Churchill Downs in the Breeders' Cup turf.